We are at the top of the hour where Michael Kelleher and myself, Michael Zhao, we talk about what's going on in the world of mortgages, real estate, maybe what's going on in the economy, and maybe what's going on in capital markets. Um, I'm super excited about some of the topics we're going to be covering today. And one thing I do want to cover was the interview that Greg Shear had. He had it with the former Mortgage Bankers Association president, David Stevens. And, behind closed doors, we can have private conversations. But in listening to the dialogue that they had, David emphasized multiple times, along with Greg, that the mortgage industry is in an emergency environment. And it's super interesting for us to be able to hear this because, number one, everybody who's a retail mortgage originator, not at the C-suite level, but at the ground level, they're just the grunts of the mortgage industry, right? They're originating business. They want to collect their commissions, and they're having underwriting issues because there's more buybacks at the secondary market level because there's quality control issues or quote unquote supposedly quality control issues at that level. And there's just a lot of concern of what is actually going on in the mortgage industry. We see mortgage rates when Housing Wire says that they're supposed to be headed up to 8%. What's going on with capital markets? Is there a market to buy especially with the debt ceiling resolution being changed, with Kevin McCarthy being ousted as a result of the whole thing, and the United States now having to issue more debt with rising interest rates, and because they have to make their interest rate payments, they're going to be negatively amortizing more debt. There's a lot of stuff going on with David and Michael and I are going to be talking about that today. So before we dig even deeper, we may talk about Redfin, their exit from NAR, and what they're proposing. But Michael, good morning to you. And we're gonna hit the show on the ground running today. We don't have any. I can't. I'm not on LinkedIn right now, so I don't get to see our audience members on LinkedIn. But I get to be here with you on Discord. So let's jump into this. Jobs which were paying between $40 to $60 an hour at one time are now, they're for that same exact position they're being offered at $20 to $25 an hour right now. You're used to earning $40 an hour, and now you're being offered a job at $20 an hour because that's the only thing available on your skill set, and you're 50 years old.
It would be tough, but I think that's the whole point of this show is we're telling it like it is. This is where the way the industry is. You might have to scrap things down. The way you have to look at it is, I think this is, can I optimize it to the point it's profitable? If not, well, I guess it would be more, can I automate it? If not, can I outsource it? If not, I guess first would be, can I eliminate it, right? If not, can I outsource it? If not, can I automate it? If not, can I optimize it? John, you can come back up here on this stage because our Discord was kind of out of whack today, this week. And so, same thing with Holt. And Holt, you might want to wait because we really only let our callers, quote, call in once. But a great topic to have you back up on stage would be, Michael, what was that seminar you were on? Okay. It's 24 minutes past the hour. This is MoreTalk with Michael and Michael. The reason we're getting people to Discord is we are looking for sponsors because we're getting help. We're getting Sunday releases on YouTube. This is not becoming an inexpensive piece, but I will say this is now show number, I think, 13, Michael, now 13 straight weeks of showing up and doing it consistently from all different locations. I'll be doing it from Housing Wire Annual this coming Thursday. I did it from Digital Mortgage last Thursday. So that's 4 conferences, that one host has been at while doing it in the 13 weeks. I don't know of any other radio show format. I know there's 8 listeners here. I think consistently we get about 16. If we can get even that number over on Discord, there are plenty of opportunities for even that number, enough sponsors to at least pay for the little bit of chopping this up. And that would make our lives easier, and then we can start to focus on which our goal is starting in I think after these conferences, because they could be a little bit of a distraction. But after these conferences, we do have serious plans to start having guests on the show. And I think the guests will be loan officers, realtors, get the people that can report back to us what's important. So we do it every Thursday, 2 p.m. Eastern. I don't think nine's that bad. And this is the problem. We can't invite people on LinkedIn. So we're trying to come up with a way with a newsletter. Discord can send a text. Inviting people every week to a LinkedIn audio is going to turn us from the good guys of the industry to the bad guys. We're going to become the annoying things in your inbox. So we don't want to be those annoying people inviting people, but we have done it 13 times in a row, and I think that's the message to I think the industry right now. Sometimes you just got to show up, and oftentimes I'm doing this for myself, Mike, and I'm sure you are too. I got actually, this is the most booked schedule I have had, which is another for 13 years I've shown up. And I think this is a sign that by showing up, people have respected me. I have all CEOs, and they tell me, how the joke is about trigger leads. Andrew Berman, I know you'll like this one. The MBA annual list is the equivalent of trigger leads for a CEO of a mortgage company. The minute it comes out, every single person is calling. And in this market, the salespeople are hungry, just like the loan officers out there looking for business. There is no business. They are calling, they are messaging, they are texting. The same names are on there. So they're going after the same people. There is a great job of the messages of what these softwares, what these companies do. Kevin goes to conferences. It's the same message. I mean, that's really what Adopt the brand is locating different, just like yourself with the family offices. There's ways to make money with family offices that they should be doing in 2024. And instead going back to these purchase deals is not necessarily a great idea if there is no listings. So with that said, they go. I guess what I'm saying is the media does a great job. They don't need to really meet, and right now they're not meeting with technology vendors. The CEOs are meeting with their warehouse lines to explain that what's on paper is just on paper, and this is how much money. This is how I envision it, and I could be totally wrong. And I know we're recorded. I think they're going to the conferences with their personal checking account printed out on the inside of their blazer, and they're pulling it out to all their warehouse lines, because that is a domino effect. You talked about domino effect earlier today. As soon as one warehouse line pulls it because of breaking covenants, and they're all out of covenant, because there's never been two non-profitable quarters. If you go back and look at the charts before the beginning of this year, ever really in the space, maybe twice since 1988. So they have covenants. If it ever goes twice, they've pretty much broken it. So to have like 5 in a row, I think they're saying, look, I actually have 80 million in this account. I'm willing to go down to 70, or I'm willing to go down to 40 million. Don't cut us yet. We're obviously not going to lose, 40 this quarter. Let's keep working together, because as soon as they lose one, the other one knows there's also rules around that we should get somebody up explaining it. And then the GSEs even get notified. And everybody's afraid of repurchase risk, right? So it's like if you're you don't want to have a loan that's a scratch and dent loan that you don't know is scratch and dent yet, sitting on your warehouse line, and then the company folds up shop and you're the one stuck with it. No, we don't say companies. Like, we can't say companies, or no one's going to tell us anything. So that should be our policy. We don't say who it is.
So scratch and dent potentials have there been? He goes, well, I don't talk. And he said this quote: I don't talk to capital markets. I just get these loans that are being pushed back to me, and the things that they are now telling me that I didn't do right underwriting are ridiculous. And I said, well, tell me more about that. And he's just like, well, just stupid things on the way that I underwrite. You would think that common sense would actually come more into play, but they start to nitpick on the things that don't make sense anymore, just so they don't. It looks like that they don't even want to buy the paper. When these are perfectly good underwritten loans, perfectly good underwritten loans, satisfying the seller's guide, underwritten according to the seller's guide, and they're being pushed back as scratch and dead. And then, of course, and with his record and the way he's been in underwriting now for about 20 years, he said that he hasn't when he pushes it back, he comes up with just a more detailed explanation of why it was what if it was an income calculation. This is how and why this is a make sense deal and why it won't default. Why if it doesn't pass the quality control muster, these are the reasons why it should go through quality control. But not every underwriter, have common sense. Some of them get a little bit loose cannon and they take it personally. So instead of making it a make sense deal, it becomes a personal issue, and that's when and then they become afraid for their job, and so they start underwriting a little bit more conservatively, which just makes the retail loan officer upset.
Yeah, so it sounds like all these issues are bellowing up, but I think okay.
They're afraid of their job so much.
So how do the new? I mean, we just need some guests to ask some real questions, but to me, it's like these companies are going to need a Dave Stevens type moment to change things because the new people getting in there are going to be able to make such a difference. The problem is you need new minds coming in that are, in my opinion, you almost need like 25-year experienced vendors in the industry to come in and start their own mortgage company. You don't want the tech people because they don't get the game. And
they don't get the game.
I would have to ask Rich Novinsky, but say it's gone down to about $80, right? I can probably give that to a friend and he'll give me $20 and say, when you get, he'll trust me that I'm going to want that Ken Griffey back. He doesn't mind keeping it either. If he knew no matter what, I could come over, put him in a headlock, and take that Ken Griffey Jr. card back. To come up with all these technical valuation perfect ways to manufacture a loan, there is a little bit of gamesmanship of having to be somewhat connected in the MBA and kiss the crown. You can't not become an MBA member because you say it doesn't do anything and then be upset when in 40 days if
nothing happens
and therefore flood insurance goes away. That's 1,400 closings a day that stop in this country that already doesn't have 1,400. And I know companies that were doing 1,400 loans a month that have told me in November they're going to do about 150 loans in November. So you could almost say that 10 of the top 50 companies in this country that are not consumer direct retail probably won't even close 1,400 in November. And you're going to shut all that down. And you're a technical person, right? All I meant was you go, oh, what happened? What happened? There's no way they're going to let the consumer not close. Yeah, they are because it's pack driven and it's somebody else on the other side, like, it's Farmers Insurance. And there was a gentleman from an insurance company. I won't say who. It wasn't Farmers because I said, we are farmers. And he goes, that's not us. He goes, that's not us. But that wasn't my fault. He didn't tell me. I was trying to guess who he was. He's like, oh, I could actually work with the LOS and turn on more insurance deals but the reality is I've been told like our models are so much out of whack with cats, which he informed me is, here's the MoreTalk tidbit of the day. Cat is catastrophe. That's how all their models do pricing. But that's why he's like, we don't want any more policies, period, across the country in any place. And I even heard I was talking with a neighbor who tried to get wind insurance in the town next to me in Marblehead. Can't get wind insurance because one person has made a claim on wind insurance in the last 90 days in that town. What I'm saying is just creating the perfect whatever that word is, numerated LOS that's never been invented before. Yeah, it's not going to solve for the fact that a company could go out of business. Yeah.
The saying, whoever makes the goals makes the rules. Who's making the goal? Who's making more?
I mean, that's what you're
I don't even know who's making the goal. I used to think that it was the banks who offer the warehouse lines to the independent mortgage bankers.
It is, I think, right? That's why I think it's another thing I've heard about the brokerages is this broker versus IMB thing, right?
Sure.
Even that's out of whack. By the way, all my stuff, take it as hearsay, but like I talk to a lot of people, right? So the theory is that banks could.
Talking more to the executives. I'm actually talking to underwriters, retail originators, and brokers. I would talk to 8 retail originators this week who are all struggling, and they are decent in their own right and intelligent. And they're all, and none of them have a clue what's going on with the with what the executives are doing. You know, if I go and tell them, hey, by the way, your secondary market is doing this, and the cost per mortgage loan funded, it used to be a profit of 6,000, now it's a negative 3,000. They're like, that's great. We still want to get paid 125 basis points for every funding.
And they should.
You know, they should, but should they?
Yeah. I just think the model's broken. That doesn't mean that they. Yeah, until you turn
There's
it.
a retail company that the originator I just spoke to. They just lowered their comp to 75 basis points at a max spread for California loans.
In the current model, yes, you're almost going to have to do that 75 basis point. But there are other models out there that are going to be new to the market that we're bringing in and adopt the brand that involve a shark from Shark Tank.
You know, in your marketplace, if you're used to getting paid 3% commission, now nationally you're going to be forced by your company to get paid. You're going to charge 2, and before you were making a 90% split with, you know, you got to pay your broker X amount of dollars, making 90, but now you got to pay your broker and you're only going to make 75% or 70%. It may be apples and oranges, but when you have limited amount of transactional business,
what's the operational cost of if anything, for the realtor, it's becoming like personal operational cost. Like a realtor can go out and buy their own drone, or more likely have their own drone team, right? Social media team, etc. The loan officer is not going out and getting their own underwriter, processor. So that's where I think it's apples and oranges. So the commission comes out of a spread, out of the realtor is 1099 usually. The realtor needs to work on a team. Loan officers do like to work independently. They always look at the unicorn like Shant out at guaranteed rate and rather try and figure out how that works and what kind of team that really is. It's easier to just sort of, there's a lot of like, you know, back in our day, Scotsman's Guide, you couldn't have teams, and he's not really doing all those loans himself. Like, do you want a cookie for that? Like, do you think that's breaking news? Like, obviously, it's physically impossible. Maybe not in the future with Chat GPT. So let's segue here as we're a quarter of.
yes,
And tell me about that Chat GPT. I mean, and I'll be honest with somebody in the crowd here, Holt, that was teaching me a little bit about Chat GPT. I just went out and bought the 4, and I just wrote my whole entire new website. So Adopt a Brand's website will be coming out, written mostly by ChatGPT. I was at Digital Mortgage. One of the coolest things he sent me, and I'll send anybody here on this call, just direct message me, or actually, you know what? Join our Discord and I'll send it to you. But he sent me what to put in. This is Daniel Burris, the technologist, you know, but it's probably a $30,000 speaker. Nothing was too breaking, except he did give what to put in the Chat GPT when you tell it how to talk. So it's like it's very extensive, but it was pretty impressive output. That and those are the little things I've learned about Chat GPT. It's like when people are gonna replace you, it's that they know how to use Chat GPT, that they know that it you know, it's the prompts. It is. Let me just give you a quick preview of this, and then I'm going to segue over to you because I don't want to steal what you're saying, but I do. But I do want to just. Yep, our first listener on Discord, John, said send, and I will send it. But here it is. It's like, you will respond as my collaborator, who is an award-winning writer and marketing expert, who is knowledgeable in all leadership and management methodologies. Your response will be targeted for C-suite executives, leaders, managers, entrepreneurs in mortgage lending, for credit unions, independent mortgage bankers, and banks. Maintain a high level of organization. Ensure boom, 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 and about 11 things you asked. Don't waste time telling me you're an AI. offer innovative and potentially overlooked solutions. This is how you deliver. I hope I didn't lose you guys there on that, but my Wi-Fi just cut out. That's all that was.
Here, or if interest rates go here, um, I'm asking ChatGPT, how do I create the Excel spreadsheet to calculate mortgage convexity if rates go from here or from rates go to here? And then, according to this person that I've spoken to them, that I'm going to get coached on how to use ChatGPT for finance, they're going to help me produce a program on how to calculate interest rate risk and spreads, and then working with companies like MCT on how to hedge a mortgage-backed security pipeline.
We lost you a little bit here
on
in the
ChatGPT that's underutilized right now, and I think it is, but I don't talk to enough secondary guys at the wholesalers or retailers right now. I'm just talking to other trading paper.
Mike, I have a ChatGPT expert on the Discord, and we lost you a little bit because of a Wi-Fi thing. Actually, it was me. What could you just say that one more time so that
Yeah, I'm going to be asking ChatGPT to create an Excel spreadsheet.
But wait, before that, what did the gentleman tell you? Like, can you really run secondary on ChatGPT? Is his theory? Because this is
that is his theory. Yes, because he actually was with a capital markets team in Europe. Hello?
Yeah. Keep going.
So if we can produce a spreadsheet if ChatGPT can produce a spreadsheet that says, okay, if interest rates go up another 75 basis points or they go down 25 basis points, can it help me produce a spreadsheet where I can input where the pricing is at today so that I can figure out how can I educate myself on covering my spreads or hedging my correspondent lines so that I can actually be profitable as a independent mortgage banker. Now, you don't put in all those extra words, you just putting in certain types of definitions so you can do calculations for the spreadsheet purpose, right? All the extra words is just for the audience so that I can just put things into context. But if we can actually functionally use ChatGPT for finance on a more intelligent level and to mitigate part of that risk, then that's something that's just, I think it has the potential of being underutilized today, but more utilized in the future. But even more so, how do we utilize ChatGPT for the loan process and unfortunately reduce the amount of people that are working in processing so that you have less touches, so that you can mitigate not only your risk, but reduce the amount of touches so that you can also increase the amount of profitability per funded mortgage loan.
But did he have like an example? Like, what was some of his examples? Like, you put in a prompt, like, here's my pool, or you actually have it.
Well, not the part that costs money, right? But but if you pay him X amount of dollars, then yes, he has that prompt. Interesting, right?
Sorta sounds like it was a lot of worm on the
sales hook.
Yeah, and not enough fish reeling in. But
I'm gonna give it a shot probably over the course of the next 2 business days and start playing around with ChatGPT and Excel to see what kind of equations I can come up with.
Again, very interesting. Do you think he's saying to let, and I was talking with Holt, I guess with ChatGPT 4, do you think companies will feel comfortable letting it look at your encompass somehow and like actually, or is that going to be like a violation of possible data privacy rules in the future?
That's got to be a data privacy rule for the time being.
I don't know. Hey, Holt's up on the screen here. He's actually in both rooms, so we appreciate that, Holt. But we appreciate showing people that we are taking callers on the Discord. If you download Discord, by the way, the mobile app Discord, just download the mobile app Discord and message me for the link directly to the room. And when I send it to you that way, it is the best way to get on here and get in. And we're very thankful of it. Once you get in, please give us a follow because we know that'll allow you to know when we're going to have a future show. So, Holt, after we talked yesterday, Michael tells me this crazy news today that somebody's saying, why not use ChatGPT for secondary marketing? And that's not a crazy idea, because software like MCT has actually outperformed having your own secondary team on average at 7 out of 10 companies. When you look at that, that could be as much as almost half a percentage point the way the yield spreads are out of whack. So if you just went with the software, the only reason you would not do that is if you believe it could perform better by having a team. If ChatGPT and a team can outperform, one of those softwares, well, now you've put a third person in the ring hold. What do you think? And the privacy stuff too. Holt, do you want to come up on LinkedIn instead? Because we can't. Oh, can you hear us? Holt? I don't know what's up with Discord today.
Technical difficulties.
Maybe he can come up on yeah. Hopefully he can come up on LinkedIn audio or figure that out. There he is on LinkedIn audio. I don't know what is up with Discord today. We promise you we'll have it fixed next week. But it's good to know it's not just us. It's everybody.
Welcome to the stage. Thanks for coming on. And you're on mute for the time being.
I'm on mute, and I should be back. Okay. I have poor internet today, so it could also be that. So just tell me if I cut out. But yeah, basically what I was saying is the way that I see everything going is people are going to start leveraging GPT and seeing that it works, and really strong capital markets teams are going to start playing around with it and becoming highly efficient and highly profitable. I don't know the space super well, so I'm just talking with the context that I do have. And those people eventually probably could automate themselves out of a job, but for the time being, the people that know it well are going to be the ones that are advancing and moving much faster. And I don't think it's going to be full hands off for a while. Like, you have to understand with GPT, it's not going to make decisions for you. You could make it make decisions for you. But if you're just plugging stuff in, like uploading a spreadsheet or putting a picture in or whatever, like, it's going to spit something out, and then you have to do something with that. You have to decide what that is going to be. And honestly, like, when you start using it more, you're going to realize, like, the first or second time, maybe you didn't get the prompt right. And so you really have to watch it and fine tune it to make sure it's going to do what you want it to do before you can really have it doing the things, like starting to actually automate jobs. Like, it's not there yet. But if you're willing to spend the time and build things around it, like, imagine we talked about Encompass and plugging into there. Like, first of all, I think the only way, at least in my experience working in mortgage, like, you have to be integrated in these platforms, whether it's the LOS, point of sale, CRM, whatever you're doing, you've got to be in those platforms for people to actually commit to using the product. So for people that are willing to integrate into Encompass and willing to put that stuff using GPT and Encompass, pulling data out, pushing data in, that's going to be the people that do really well with using GPT and mortgage. And with the data privacy concerns on that front, you can have like a self-contained model. So, like, if you don't realize this, GPT-4 is open source. And so that means, like, anyone can go and get the model and run it on their own hardware, and they can tune the model to be whatever they want. And no one else could have access to that, right? So as far as privacy concerns, like, I don't think people understand. Like, it's one thing if you're using the GPT playground, and they've already said it's like a prompt and forget. So they actually don't store any of the data that you're pushing in there, contrary to popular belief. But you can make this thing really, like, you can even host on-prem. You don't have to go through AWS or anything like that in order to run your GPT model. So the way I see it is there needs to be some education. People don't fully understand it, and people don't know how to use it. And once that starts picking up, like, I think what's going to happen is there's going to be some revelations, and people are like, oh shit, this is making our lives a lot easier. And that's when people are going to start looking at it more closely.
Well, do you think that with ChatGPT, and just so you know, Michael, I've been talking about this for the last 2 months, but do you think someone's going to eventually ChatGPT? How do I streamline the mortgage process? or they're going to figure out how to ask ChatGPT, I should say, so that you don't have to have a processor or a doctor or an underwriter, or you have so many people touching the file, so that you can actually streamline the origination to funding process, so that you have less people touching the file. Do you think that ChatGPT can actually create that for a mortgage banker?
So the broad answer of that is yes. Undoubtedly, there's going to be like huge automation potential out of all this stuff. And I don't think it's going to be like a mortgage banker asking like, how do you automate this process? I think, Michael, it's people like you and me. I mean, both Michaels, and all three of us here. It's people like us that are looking at this process and seeing the inefficiencies and then being like, I know how we can solve this because we have GPT. And so that could be something like, instead of an LO having to ask a question to an underwriter, it could be a GPT model that's tuned to your underwriting guidelines that can answer those questions. So the underwriters are not being bothered with random questions, and LOs get on the spot answers real time, right? And like that's like a small point of automation, but I know when I was working in a mortgage company, that was a big thing. Is LOs were like constantly waiting for answers on like, what do I do with this? What do I do with this? You could program this thing to do it real time. So it's just going to be a matter of people like us looking at each problem individually and then figuring out how to address it. And like I said, there's a lot of system integration that goes into this. I think that's the harder part. Broadly speaking, absolutely.
Well, it sounds like to me like underwriters should be more scared than support staff, like doctor.
I don't know. I don't know who I was saying this to, but it might have been Michael Keller recently. But you can literally, the government guidelines are free on the internet.
Right.
So you can download those and you can upload those to GPT, right? Like it's an underwriter instantly and it's up to date on the guideline. There's no reason people shouldn't be thinking about this. And I guarantee you there's already a company or like a person out there trying to figure this thing out. So yeah, absolutely. Underwriters. I mean, I think the entire staff should be. I think the way that I've thought about this is the thing that's going to stick around the hardest actually is sales. Like I think the loan officers will be the last to be automated because the relationship matters so much. And so yeah, I think all the support staff is much more vulnerable to this kind of tech. I think the salespeople are the people that tell the story. They give people the reassurance they need. They want to understand their problems. And like, I think GPT could do that eventually, but having a person behind the phone that you know is helping you, I think is always going to be important.
That's interesting, because one of the things that I talk behind closed doors is, if ChatGPT is running things and they go things according to guidelines, will fraud increase over the life of, let's say a mortgage banker goes completely hacked and they eliminate 80% of their cost structure as a result, and then fraud increases as a result of doing it that way. But they're sitting there going, well, wait a second, we eliminated X amount of hundreds of millions of dollars of cost, but our loan level losses are only, let's say, $300 million in actual fraud losses. But we eliminated $800 million in salaries. So we'll take on the fraud and we'll pay for the fraud level loss of scratch and dent paper, or even beyond recognition paper, because the loss is better than paying the salary. I mean, is that something that you could see happening? Or is that something that ChatGPT can put together and say, what is this statistical analysis based upon today's level of fraud or today's level of pushback? This is what we're looking at, because today we're looking at high levels of buybacks, and I'm wondering if we can use today's statistics in order to produce tomorrow's layoffs and underwriting.
Yeah. No. I followed. So I think there's like, I have a multi-part answer to this. So to start off with, yeah, I think all of this is a math problem, right? Like if you know that you can automate a ton of the process and you're going to have a little bit more risk, but you're going to be cutting so much like in pay that it's worth it, then sure, I think people are going to take the time to to do that math and see if it checks out. And that's just like a risk-based calculation. What you mentioned specifically on that was fraud. I'm not so well versed on like what the key areas of fraud are, but I assume it's lying about income or assets or like the value of a property or something like that, where that would affect the performance of the loan and then cause issues. I think there's going to be people solving individual problems on the loan process. And so imagine like someone has, like, I know of one, there's the Prudent AI, which I know Joe has joined a couple of these calls and he's working closely with or working on. And they do recognition, I think, of income. And I imagine that AI is far more capable of tracking fraudulent documents like a forged W-2 versus a human. And I say that because the level of detail that a computer can look at, and not only that, like they can like read the metadata on a document and see what's been done, things like that. I think they're going to change the game on something like fraud. Like I actually think that's less of a concern because people are going to solve that problem. So in the meantime, yeah, people are going to calculate risk and see if it's worth it. But longer term, I think this stuff addresses fraud a lot more than even a human could.
Wow. Michael, it's 12:01 in California right now, and I know that we want to keep our listeners and our time prompt. This is incredibly insightful and interesting for us to be able to talk to. Michael, what do you have anything to add, and do you want to wrap up, or do you want to ask Holt a few more questions?
I mean, we can go a little bit over. I think it's so relevant in today's world. I think the biggest problem is everybody that gets involved in AI, in ChatGPT, is so smart. They want to fix everything. They want to like solve it all. And so there's they want to solve it all. And so when Holt says to break it down part by part, that's going to be, to me, what the answer should be. And then there'll be somebody that solves it all and sells a bunch of vaporware at a bunch of booths and discourages all the buyers out there, kind of how OCR worked before Red File came along, in my opinion, and taking advantage of the fact that the buyers don't really understand it, and the people buying it are buying it to build and maybe not always looking at the industry like we talked about earlier in this show. If you build, but then your company is victim to a yield spread problem that can't finish what you were building, then what did you really build? Except, a more efficient way to being acqui-hired or out of business. So I hope that ChatGPT, my takeaway is this: ChatGPT actually, and you kind of said it today, Michael, with your JSON approach, ChatGPT allows ordinary people to do extraordinary things. And I think those ordinary people sometimes maybe understand that they don't have to bite the whole apple, they can just bite pieces of it. So I think what Holt's getting at is maybe somebody just solves for VOI ordering and VOE ordering, and slowly maybe we finally come up with an efficient place where the loan officers can almost have mortgage operations as a service. And I think that's ultimately what it'll be. Somehow there'll be a mortgage operations as a service. Loan officer can go out there, bolt it on, and somehow it sells it at the best price on the secondary market with bidders, and everybody in the middle saying, well, why didn't we see it in the first place? That loan officers, kind of always had the power.
Yeah, I think that for every 10,000 clean borrowers, there's a Matthew Fox. Matthew Fox was infamous for committing mortgage fraud about 10, 15 years ago after getting caught. But I think that if it's really that small of a statistic, and that's a made up number, I don't know what the actual number actually is per funded unit. But I think it's not that big right now. But if for the most part, ChatGPT can catch whatever underwriting guidelines there is, there's going to be somebody out there that's going to do some kind of mortgage fraud deal, changing it, doing a 1040X in order to change their income, and then doing the bank statement deposits and and kind of washing their own bank statements in order to do things. This is part of one interview that Matthew Falk did when he was talking about committing mortgage fraud. But forever, there's not that. I think that ChatGPT can actually create the efficiency in underwriting and in the entire mortgage loan process. And I think that that's something that we need to be looking at, and CEOs, CIOs, and capital markets in the finance departments and teams need to be looking at it closer.
Yeah, I think that's the problem. That's the problem with the industry is it's so. That's the problem with the industry. It's so role based, right? That I don't know. That's my problem with the industry. It's so role based. Like it doesn't need to replace underwriting. We should be talking in tasks, and ChatGPT should finally be the one allowing us to do so. So it's going to solve for this. So I'm glad we had a great show here, and I'm glad we went a little bit over. We needed some extra material for our Discord for our Sunday release. If you guys aren't following, these are going to be released on Sunday, featuring Holt Butler. And let's come next Tuesday. I will be next Thursday. Sorry, and I will be, out there in Austin. So give me a call back, 781. Give me a shout back, and I'm looking forward to seeing you all out there. If you're not, on here.
Yeah, give us a shot. Maybe we can actually next week we can talk about what Redfin did, leaving NAR and leaving their board of directors seat and all that other stuff. That's pretty big news as well.
Absolutely, yeah. Let's thank you everybody for joining. See you next Thursday, 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific.